I surrender to the Almighty my mind, speech and body. Vanakkam. We are reading the Thirukkural, which is a book written by Thiruvalluvar. This is one of the ancient books left behind by our Tamil ancestors, and it carries important information about how humans can reach higher states of existence and ultimately reach moksha or veedu by simply living our lives in a certain manner which is in tune with the natural order. The order that we find in nature is called as Aram, and the author of this book, Thiruvalluvar, has understood the principles by which nature works, and he has shown us how to live our married life in accordance to the same principles. These principles, when it is applied to the married life, they are called as Il Aram, and Valluvar says that the goal of marriage is simply to learn to love. We start our journey of life with loving our own self, and through the system called marriage, we learn to expand our love to our partner, our children, friends, society, and eventually to the whole of creation. And this is the way to reach our final destination called as Mukti or Veedu, says Valluvar. Now this book is divided into three big sections called as Paal to address the principles of Aram, principles of wealth and pleasure respectively, which are the three major divisions of our life. We are following the commentaries given by a scholar called as Parimel Alagar, and we have started with the first Paal called as Arathu. In Arathu, we are at the first viyal called as Payira, and in Payira we have many chapters. The first chapter is Kadavul Vaalthu, and we finish with that. It addresses the idea of God and how worship can liberate us from the cycle of rebirths. And then Valluvar writes the next chapter on the topic of rain. He says that rain is the immediate expression of God's kindness on this planet. When we understand the nature of rain, we will understand how life works, he says. This second chapter on rain is called as Vaan, Sirappu, and we have finished the first 4 Kurals. In these 4 Kurals, we saw that rain is the Amrita for life on earth. Because as long as it rains, life cannot be destroyed. And without rain, life cannot continue. Why? Because rain is crucial to create the food that we consume, and it becomes the food in itself when we consume it as water. And even though the earth contains plenty of seawater, it can never be a substitute for rain. And without rain, all the farming activities will eventually come to a halt. So that's what we saw in the first 4 Kurals. And today we will enter the next Kural, Kural 15. The Kural goes like this. Kedupathoom, kettarkku chaarvai, matraange, Eduppathooum, Ellam mazhai. This is one of my most treasured Kurals, the ones that I would like to underline, highlight and etch in my memory forever, and I will tell you why. The overall meaning of this Kural is, rain is capable of giving an extremely difficult time during drought, and it destroys many things, but it always gives back whatever it took away in just the way it took away. So what is this Kural trying to tell us? Parimel says that rain can sometimes cause hardships to life. How? By not pouring at all. That is by creating a drought. But why only drought? That's not the only way rain can cause hardships, right? What about floods? Doesn't that cause heavy loss for us? And in answer to that, Parimel says that during the drought, when the rain stops pouring for a long time, then all forms of life will suffer. There is no exception to this. But when it floods, even though one portion of life forms like some plants, animals and people suffer, the floods are essential for some species of life. For instance, some of the big trees like the banyan tree or the fig tree, they need such heavy flow of water at least once a year to thrive. So during these floods, these trees will consume a lot of water, and with that they can sustain for the rest of the year even without water. So even though the floods cause huge amounts of damage for us, some species need that kind of flood to survive. So destruction happens during floods, it is true, but it is not for all forms of life. During the floods, only some part of the creation will suffer. A portion of the creation will still thrive. But when the rain stops, all forms of life will suffer. So keeping this truth in mind, Valluvar says that rain creates hardships and destroys many things during the drought. There's loss of money, and we don't have enough food to eat, and all of us will suffer. But here is the important thing. This Kural says that after the season of drought, the rain always gives back whatever it destroyed. So there is nothing to worry, says Valluvar. Remember, I told you that Valluvar is talking about rain as an expression of God's kindness. And if we understand the workings of rain, then we will understand how God or life works, isn't it? If this is the principle behind the working of rain, then what does that tell us about the workings of life? Rain will always give back what it took. This is the truth that the author is trying to tell us. Then, God or life should also work like that, isn't it? To me, the message is, life will give us a hard time. Just as how we suffer during the drought, life will nearly kill us. But whatever it took away, it will always find a way to give back. It never gives up on us. This much itself is a positive information, but there is more. There are a couple of important points to note in this Kural. Parimizhalagar has taken a lot of effort to analyze the grammatical construct of this Kural, and he is giving us a very beautiful message. Normally, I wouldn't want to spend too much time on the grammar of the Kurals, but here in this Kural, the effort that Parimizhalagar has taken and the message that he has extracted is too good to ignore. See, grammar is like math. Grammar is used to tell the readers exactly what the author is trying to convey. There should be no vagueness in the transfer of information. And here, Parimizhalagar is taking a lot of effort to draw our attention and stress on some important aspects of rain. And I will explain them now. The Kural goes like this. Kedupathoom, kettarkku chaarvai, matraange, edupathoom, Ellam, mazhai. First, there is the word matraange in the Kural. And Parimizhalagar analyzes this word. And he says that when the rain destroys, it will stop pouring and take away many things. And that is how it will cause hardships. And then, when giving back, it will give back how much ever it destroyed. That is, he says that the giving nature of rain exactly matches the destruction aspect of rain, but in the reverse direction. And in order to indicate this equality in the reverse direction, the word matraange is used. In Tamil grammar, this kind of comparison is called as Maruthalai, thozhil, uvamai. That is, this happens just like that, but in the opposite direction. So in simple words, Valluvar is telling us, dear readers, understand that rain always gives back whatever it took, how much ever it took, and just the way it took. Then note the elongated sound of Kedupathoom and Eduppathooum. Kedupathoom means destroys, Eduppathooum means gives back. Tamil speakers would know that this word is normally pronounced as Kedupathoom, not Kedupathoom, and Edupathoom, not Edupathoom. But in this Kural, Valluvar purposefully elongates these two words. In Tamil grammar, this kind of elongation of the sound of a word is called as alapadai, and this is used to draw the reader's attention to the word as it carries an important message. Kedupathoom normally means to destroy, but in order to indicate a prolonged nature of destruction, Valluvar says Kedupathoom. You see, when the rain decides to torture us, it will be too too much to bear. Similarly, when it decides to give back, it will just shower us with all the things that we lost, it seems. And in order to indicate this truth, Valluvar is using the alapadai or the elongated sound, the Kedupathoom and Eduppathooum. And finally, note that there is a word called Ellam in the Kural. Ellam means all. See, these ancient wise people like Valluvar and Parimezhalagar, they are of the kind who would use as few words as possible. They like to pack a lot of information in as few words as possible. And I have spoken about this in the introduction videos. If Valluvar writes a word, it will be out of pure necessity to convey some meaning. So here in this Kural, the word all is not redundant, but it tells us a message. When drought arrives, destruction happens. What gets destroyed? Small plants like grass, paddy, maybe some insects, earthworms. Then after the drought is over, all of these things will be created without exception. From a tiny blade of grass to the huge elephant, this truth applies for all. So to indicate this, the word Ellam is used. So it's not that you're just a tiny blade of grass and so nobody cares about you. No. All forms of life are treated equally by rain. So the point here is, when we see the workings of rain, we understand that rain takes away many things during the drought. But here, the authors are telling us that it always gives back everything that it destroyed. Whatever rain takes, it gives back. When in difficult times, it will be prolonged and it will be like it's too much to bear. But when the right time comes, it will be a prolonged showering of kindness, it seems. And I feel that's a fantastic message. When Valluvar and Parimezhalagar are stressing this point this much, it looks like rain is an extremely fair entity in God's creation. And if this is how rain works, then what about our life or God? Is life also fair? It's a deep question, and of course there is no one easy answer to this question. Each of us will have to arrive at a conclusion based on our own experience. But I want to believe that it is fair, because these are the words of wise people like Thirukkural and Parimezhalagar, who have lived long before us and who have experienced life much before us. These are our ancestors from so long ago, and they have taken so much effort to write this book and write the explanations for generations of people much after the time. And they are telling us this from their experience. They are saying, don't worry, whatever you lost, money, fame, joy, happiness, life will always find a way to give back what it took. And to me, this is a big reassurance. Just imagine being showered by all the things that we lost. How wonderful would that be, right? And this is why I want to remember this message forever. I'm sure many of us have faced many hardships, ugly situations, would have lost money, and even worse, our loved ones, or would have undergone extremely difficult experiences in our lives. Obviously, it is not possible to bring back our loved ones from the dead, but will it be possible to overcome the grief, the trauma, and the emptiness and be able to find joy and peace? Only people who have experienced that can tell us about it. I don't know if I will ever get back all the things that I lost. I suppose I will know that only at the end of my life's journey. But I want to hold on to this message until then. It is very positive and helps me to be patient and hopeful. So the next time you look at rain, understand that it is trying to remind us of this big truth. So in summary, what is this Kural telling us? It says that rain takes away many things during drought, but it always gives back everything that it destroyed. Rain is an extremely fair entity in this creation. And with that positive note, we come to the end of this Kural. I shall end here and thank you all for listening. Nandri, Vanakkam.